Now, this week we're joined by life and business coach, Sarah. Hi, Sarah. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Before we get into what you're actually doing now, can you just let everyone know who you are and where you grew up and stuff?
Yeah, my name is Sarah Bayer. I am currently based in Los Angeles, California, but I was born in the San Francisco Bay Area and I grew up in the Bay Area. I moved to LA about 9 years ago, so always been in California.
And do you enjoy it in the LA and California area?
I love California. I feel like I just read recently California is one of the top three, they call them stickiest states, meaning like if you're born here, you're really unlikely to ever live anywhere else. Uh, I think there's like the combination of the weather and being by the ocean, and it's a really particular culture. And so, there's nowhere else in the United States I'd want to live for sure.
And how was childhood for you? Was it what we say conventional childhood or
No, it was kind of a disaster. I love being an adult.
are you like to go into why it was a disaster?
Um, it just was not particularly great. I think it's really common, honestly, for most people to have not super great childhoods. My parents were not particularly available and they were just really wrapped up in their own things that they had going on. And I left home very, very young and I've never looked back.
Do you find that helped you grow up quicker? So I left home when I was 17 and I was on my own for about 7 or 8 years before I met my wife. But I think that helped me mold who I am as an adult.
I mean, I think that's unavoidable. When people ask me about like how I felt like it shaped my life, I can't imagine it being different because I've only ever lived my life. So I do think that there were things that I figured out about myself and about my career and my path and what I wanted like a decade ahead of my friends and my peers. I feel like I had some of those like, oh, okay, like I have the job that I'm supposed to want and the apartment and all the things, and I'm not happy. Like I had that awakening probably a decade ahead of most of the people I knew, which I think benefited me because it allowed me to get on a path of like trying to figure out what I really wanted a lot earlier. Now, as a coach, I frequently work with people who are in their 30s and 40s who are just going, oh, I went to college for the thing I was supposed to go to college for, and I got the job I was supposed to get, and I have the life that I'm supposed to have. And now I'm realizing I don't even know who I am. I don't know what I like. I just did everything I was supposed to do. And there's a big identity crisis and like trying to now figure that out and figure out what you like, which is a great thing to come to coaching for. That's something I help people with a lot. But I think leaving home really young and kind of starting on a path to adulthood early, I do feel like one of the benefits was that I kind of sorted that thing out or a lot of those things out for myself kind of ahead of schedule. So I do appreciate that. On the other hand, I also had a lot of angst and sadness and trauma for a long time around like what my life would have been like if I had felt supported and if I had gotten to have a childhood. And, as a creative, as an artist, I see people who their parents were really devoted to them as creatives and as artists, even in childhood. And they got to go to like school for the arts and they got to like, have parents who were really involved in fostering their creativity and they never had to worry about working or things that you shouldn't be thinking about when you're a kid. So I think I also really struggled with, what my life would have been like if I had had that experience in my youth. And so, I definitely think our childhoods are all very formative, but you never really know what your life would have been like if you didn't have the one that you had.
You went into coaching. Was that the first thing you decided to go to when you was ready to leave your 9 to 5, or did you try other things first?
No, I had a long career in dance and performing arts. And that I didn't know what I wanted to do. I basically, when I was a teenager, I had worked myself to the position that I was working in marketing research. And I had, a pretty cushy job with a good salary and an apartment, and was making money, but I spent my lunch breaks on the floor of the bathroom crying, and I just hated it. And I just knew that corporate was not going to be for me, but I didn't know what was. I knew I wanted to work in the arts, but I didn't know what that was going to look like. And so there was a long kind of twisty path of trying to figure it out. I opened an art gallery with some friends. I was doing freelance graphic design. I left that job and went to another kind of day job where I was an agent for hair and makeup artists and costume stylists for print and film. So I was like closer to the arts, but it still wasn't right. I went from there into just doing freelance graphic design for people. Uh, and then I went to college and I spent a lot of time just taking tons of classes and trying to figure out what I liked. But I always danced growing up, and dance kind of emerged as the main thing. So I owned a dance studio and I had a dance company, and I toured and taught and performed all over the world for a really long time. Coaching emerged for me because when you're in the arts or in sports, coaching is just a very normal part of your life because you're always trying to improve. So you always have coaches and people who are helping you get better. And it instills in you kind of a mindset of, I always want to get better. I always am looking for how I can improve. As an artist, as a person, as a technician, like how can I get better? And you're seeking out people who you think can help you get better. So that was very normal to me. And I had worked with life coaches and business coaches throughout my 20s, and I thought that it was really, really helpful. And so I got certified in coaching, but I also felt like that helped me both in dance and working in fitness and stuff because people are coming to you for one thing, but they actually need something else, right? Like if someone was coming to me for something related to fitness, there was always usually deeper things going on in their life underneath that needed to be worked on in order for the new habit on the outside to kind of take effect. And so I just realized it made me more efficient and better skilled at the other work that I was doing to have that skill set. I think and same for like bartenders and hairdressers. Like if you're the kind of you're in this career where people are coming to you and they're opening up to you about much deeper problems than what they're there for, it helps to have a skill set to facilitate those conversations. And so that was something I did alongside dance for a really long time. And then uh, in 2015, 2016, I officially opened a coaching business where I just was doing that, and I went full time in my business in 2019.
Going back to the time you was doing dance and touring and stuff, what countries shocked you the most when you took your dancing on a tour?
It's really hard to say. Um, oh gosh, I don't know. I think I have had great experiences everywhere I've been. I've been really, really lucky. I had really wonderful experiences teaching in Mexico. But the thing about traveling for me with touring is that I've been to a lot of places, but I didn't get to explore a ton because I was there to do a thing. I'm there for work. And so I would get to do little bits of stuff, maybe see one or two different tourist attractions. But for the most part, I would fly in, get picked up, get taken to where I was staying. I would teach for a couple of days. I would do a show. Maybe I'd have one more day to explore around and then I would leave again. So, um, I've been to a lot of places, but I also haven't experienced those places really deeply. So when I think about my touring experiences and what struck me the most, it's more about the dancers that I worked with and the experience that I had with those dancers. I had really profound experiences in Mexico, both Mexico City and Guadalajara. I've gotten dancers who just were really open to me, and they really engaged in doing big work with me and brought me back multiple times. So I got to see the same dancers like multiple times over years, developing and develop a relationship with them online. And I also had really beautiful experiences like that in Australia, where I had dancers who really showed up and were very involved and brought me back and came back again. So those are two places where I had really great experiences with the dance community there.
I mean, and on the teaching side of things, because I'm a teacher as well. I help young people out, support with their behaviour and behaviour management. Um, why did you decide to teach? Because it's not one, it's not for everyone, and secondly, I always wondered, because even looking at myself, do we teach because we're looking for validation, or do we teach because we want to help and support others?
I don't even know if it has to be either or because I think everyone needs validation. And I don't think that that's a bad thing to want. And it's the
Like,
same as when people are like, you're just doing that for attention. It's like people need attention. We're literally designed as a species to be communal and co regulated. And I think needing validation and needing attention and needing approval. Like those are basic human needs. So even if you are teaching or doing something to be validated and you get validation from it, that probably means you're good at it and it's helping people, or you wouldn't be getting that validation. So I don't think it's wrong or bad to need to get emotional fulfillment from your work. I think we should get emotional fulfillment from our work. I definitely find teaching to be very fulfilling and very validating and very um, inspiring to me. I think like when I see people kind of getting stuff that they felt that they couldn't get before, that was really challenging for them, and they feel like they're having a win and they're growing and they're changing their self concept, like that to me is really inspiring and exciting to be a part of and to witness. And so I love that. But I also think part of why I became a teacher is I'm naturally gifted at it. It's just something I'm good at. I have always had a knack for seeing how things connect and being able to explain things in a way where people go, oh, now I get it. And that's just a gift that I have. And so if I were to not use that gift, I think that would be more selfish than to use it. I also think that one of the things that makes me a good teacher, especially in dance and as a business coach, is that I'm not naturally good at these things. I had to work really hard at them. And I think sometimes when people are naturally great at things, they're not good at teaching them because, you're like, how do you do that? And they're like, I don't know, like this. Like they just like I totally think about this all the time. Years ago, I went to like a trampoline gym with kids, and there was this little girl who was just doing backflip after backflip after backflip. And I was so scared. I wanted to do a backflip, but I felt like I was going to break my neck. And so I went up to this like 6-year-old girl and I was like, how do you do that? And she was like this. And she did it. And I was like, right, but like how? And she just looked at me like I was so dumb. And she was like this. And she did it again. And I was like, you're right. I'm overthinking it. Like, that's it. So that's like what natural teachers are like. They're like, or natural people who are naturally good at something. They're like, I don't know. I just do it. But if you've had to work really hard to get good at something and you've really had to grapple with it and you've had to go find lots of different explanations and work with lots of different teachers and you've had to practice to get something, you are probably better equipped to explain it to someone else or to help someone else who's also struggling with it. And so I tell my clients all the time, like the reason you should learn to me from me is because I've made every single mistake there possibly is to make. And I learned from it already so that you don't have to. And I can tell you what all of the ways you can fuck this up are because I've fucked it up in all of the ways.
No, I totally agree with that, and I think that's what helps people when seeking out coaches. Because I know obviously you've got to find the right coach for you, but if you can speak to someone that's been there and sort of done that, and they're not telling you what you should do, but they're giving you advice and guidance, I think that's what makes a really good coach.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes like I've fallen into this too, where you see a coach who's like aspirational, but not necessarily someone you can relate to, or someone who doesn't have similar struggles that you might even be able to write off in your head, even if this isn't fair. But I think it's important. Sometimes you look at someone, and for whatever reason, like if they had a really easy time of it, maybe they had a really easy childhood, maybe their spouse bankrolled their whole business and they didn't have to bootstrap it or worry about money. You might be able to say, like, this person can't relate to my struggle in doing this because their life is so different from mine. And so I do think sometimes it's important to find someone who you feel is really relatable to you because you'll take their feedback more seriously than someone who you're like, oh, well, it was easy for you.
No, 100%. So I teach at the high school I went to as a student. So straight away, the young people react well to me because I can say, I've been sitting where you're sitting now. And
Yeah.
that sort of leads us off into a good conversation because I'm not someone who's just saying, think about this, think about that. I'm saying sort of the same thing that you're saying. I've been there, I've done this, but I've done it in exactly the same place that you're sitting. So I think that helped. And when it comes to setting up a coaching business, how easy is it to do that? Do you just sort of go online and write a post saying, hi everyone, I'm a coach now?
Well, I mean, I think people do that.
Yeah.
I don't, I will first of all say, I don't think any business is, I want to be careful how I say this. Business is simple but not easy. So there are the steps and it's very straight. Anyone can follow the steps, right? Yeah, you like I got certified as a coach, and I'm always improving my skills because it is a skill set. And I do think it's important that you be certified by an accredited organization. So I got certified as a coach, and then, I picked a business name and I did all the stuff about like, oh, I have to have a niche and I have to know who I'm talking to. And I set up a website, like, so that you can do the steps. But actually running a business is not easy in any industry. And I think, like most of the people I work with, I didn't go to business school. I have a thing that I'm good at doing, but I didn't know really anything about business or marketing or client acquisition or contracts or all the legal structure stuff or budgets or like all that. There was so much to learn that I think, like many of my peers, at the beginning, I was like, I don't even want to learn all this stuff. I've never been interested in learning business. I just want to do the thing I'm good at and make money off of it. So I think something that was hard for me, and part of the reason that I started my business in 2016 but didn't go full time into it until 2019, was I had been self-employed in the arts my whole adult life. I thought I was a business owner, but really I was kind of a glorified freelancer. I was self-employed, but I wasn't really a business owner, right? I had gigs, I had different little things I was doing here and there for money. I didn't have a day job. But that's not the same as knowing how to establish and grow a company. I didn't know how to do that. And so I had to first like get honest with myself that I didn't really know about business. And then I had to do a bunch of mindset stuff with myself about the part of myself who was like, I don't like business. I'm not interested in that. I don't want to do that. I want someone else to just come do all of that for me so I can just focus on the stuff I love, which I think a lot of people who are in the creative world or the service world, that's how they feel. They're like, I want someone else to come handle all the business side so I can just do the thing I want to do. And that's not the same as wanting to run a business, right? Like if you want to run a business, you have to want to run a business. And so I really had to first be honest with myself about how much I didn't know about business. I had to decide I wanted to learn it. And I had to decide that this could be interesting and creative and fun for me. And that once I learned it, I would be able to like freak it in a way that was cool to me and like make it fun for myself, but I couldn't do that until I went and learned the things that I needed to learn about business to make it successful. So it was some time between when I started, when I like got honest with myself that I didn't really know about business, when I went and learned that, and then when I started putting those things into practice. And I'm still always now like there's two different sides of growth that I'm always doing. I'm always learning my craft and getting better at my craft, but I'm also continually learning about business because business is always changing. The market's
Exactly.
always changing, marketing's changing, social media is changing, like the economy is changing. And I had to get just as interested in that side as I am in what I do. And once I did that, things really started changing. And so part of why I started working in the business space is to help other people like me who are super talented and really creative. And they're like, well, I did like, I put up a post and I said, I do this now and I didn't get any customers and I'm not making any money and I can't figure out why. And have them be like, okay, I have to get just as interested in the business side of my work as I am in doing the thing that I'm good at. And that's when things are going to change.
And is that your biggest advice for people who are looking into taking their ideas or their dreams into the business world? Because it seems like there's two different type of entrepreneurs. You've got the entrepreneurs that want to set up a business and just run businesses, or you've got the entrepreneur that's got an idea and wants that to succeed but don't know what to do with that. So is it about merging both together?
Yeah, I think so. And I think on both, like I've met some people who are like, oh, I just want to run businesses. Those people are kind of aliens to me. And like, if that's the thing that you like, and business is the thing that you like, and like business is your hobby, and you don't really care about what you're doing as long as you're in business, cool. But something that I've talked with people about is that like business is hard. And so what I always recommend is if you're going to go into business doing something that you love and care about so much that during the times that you're not making any money and like your launches aren't happening and like things aren't hitting, that you still love it so much that you want to stick with it. Because I've seen people just go into business and they're like, well, what's going to make me the most money? That's all they're really interested in. And one of two things will happen. Either one, they never get it off the ground because they don't have personal passion behind it. Or two, they get it off the ground and it's successful, and then they look around and they're like, okay, well, I built this business, but like, this isn't fun for me. I kind of hate this. I just made myself a day job. Great, because that's what happens when you get your business and set up. And I think people forget that too. Once your business is established and it's up and running, it's just your job. It might be the best job you've ever had and you might love it, but like, I'm at work right now, I'm clocked in. Like, even if there's part of me that would rather be like laying out by the pool today, I'm at work today. This is my job. And so, whatever it is that you're going to do, I do think it's a good idea that you really care about it and love it and feel passionate about it, because you're going to spend a lot of time engaged in it, thinking about it, and working on it. And then, yeah, for the people who are like, I just have a thing I'm really good at and I want to step out on my own and create my own business with it, but you don't think of yourself as someone who's really into business, numbers freak you out, the idea of charging people for this thing that you love makes you uncomfortable, you have stuff around fear of visibility, you don't want to market, you don't want to make videos, like all that stuff that comes up when you're like, oh, I just want to do the thing I'm good at. I really highly recommend that as quickly as possible, you first of all sit down with yourself and say, like, am I willing to embrace the journey of learning all this new stuff and taking on all these new skill sets and confronting my insecurities, because that's what it's going to take. And then if the answer is yes, go get help as quickly as you possibly can. Don't worry about spending the money on it. And I'm not saying you have to get a private coach and spend thousands of dollars. You can get into, like, I have a membership for people who are just starting out that's like a couple $100 a month. Find something that's accessible to you, where you can get the education that you need, where you can get the mindset and emotional coaching that you need, where you can get into community with other people who are doing what you're doing, and get yourself help right away, because trying to figure it all out on your own is how people end up spending years and years and ending up spending tens of thousands of dollars and not making any money. You can just make that process a little faster by like getting some help and getting in there and getting the support you need right off the bat.
And going on to what you're saying about the emotional side of things, how important is mindset while you're in the early stages of running a business?
It's constant. It never goes away. Um, I always say that business is shadow work. Um, in the same way that relationships are, right? People talk about, right? You're married, when you're in a relationship with someone, you can't hide from yourself. You have this person there who's reflecting back to you the good, the bad, and the ugly about yourself, all your little weird quirks and your habits and like the ways that you communicate and the things you're defensive about, all your stuff gets brought up in a relationship. And then maybe when you're single, you're fine because no one's triggering you. And then you get into a relationship and it's all right there. Business is just relationships with lots of people. It's also, all of us have weird stuff about money and about worth and about value and what we think about money and what we think about wealth and what we think about charging money for things, right? Did you grow up with a family who's like, money is the root of all evil, money doesn't grow on trees, who do you think I am, a Rockefeller? A lot of my people are creative, so you grew up being told like the thing that you want to do is not a real job and you need a backup plan and no one's going to pay for that, it's not realistic. So we'll have all of these things that we think about money, all these things we think about ourselves, all these things we think about whether or not we think we're good or worthy or people are going to like us or that people like our work. We take things personally in business that are not personal. All of that is super normal. But if you don't have someone with you who can help you understand, A, that it's happening, and B, that it's normal, and then C, that it's your job to address it if you want to be successful, that is usually the stuff that makes people quit, I think. So, like, the statistic at last I've read is that 85% of new businesses fail within the first 18 months.
Wow.
But I think a lot of that, I think that 85% is because of not getting the support you need right off the bat. And then also, like, when it gets really hard and you're like, oh, like, I feel weird about marketing. I don't want to spam people. I don't want to post too much. I don't want to send too many emails. Like, I don't want to get on video because what if people don't like what I look like? And right, like all the things that happen and that come up. Can I really charge money for this? I don't know. I'm charging way too little because I'm afraid to all that stuff that happens. If you're not getting supported through that, you will probably end up quitting because you'll be almost 2 years in and maybe put some money and some time into it and you're not getting the results and you're constantly stressed out and overwhelmed and you're like, I'm just going to go get a job. This sucks. So there's so much inner work that needs to be done. I say all the time, like, I coach the inner game and the outer game. Some coaches are really they do all mindset. Some coaches do all like nervous system and emotions and energetics, and some do all the practical stuff, the systems, how to get everything set up. I do both because I really believe you need both, and frequently you need both at the same time. Ask people if they cry when they're doing their taxes. Yes. Right? It's not because of taxes. There's all this other stuff that's happening inside, and you need to work through the inner stuff to get the outer stuff done. And so, and that just never goes away. Every new level of your business is going to bring up new fears, new insecurities, new holy shit moments that you need guidance through.
And talking about that, how do you self care for yourself then? Because obviously you're running your own business and you're giving all this advice to others, but obviously you've got to look after yourself. So how do you do that?
Well, first of all, they say if you have a therapist that doesn't have a therapist, they're not good, right? So, like, I have a coach, I have a therapist, um, and then I have a really beautiful close circle of friends who are all also entrepreneurs. I think it's so important to get into entrepreneurial community. It's part of why I built a membership because so many people, especially at the beginning, you might be the only person trying to do this in your life and your family. So you try to talk to people about it and they don't understand it or they think it's too risky. They think it's scary. They're like, "Well, what if you run out of money?" Like you're like that's not helpful at all. You need to be around other people who know what this game is really about, who can be there on the days where you're like, "Oh, I wanna burn this all down," and they can remind you what you're doing it for and, like, help you out. Um, so I have a really lovely, now close circle of other friends who are also small business owners who really get what this life is like and how different it is from being a 9 to 5 person. I also wanna say, it's not for everyone. Like, we need people who just want to work. I have people who work for me. Thank God for those people. I love the people who are like, I have no desire to take over. I don't want to run everything. I just want to show up and do my job and go home. I want to have a great job, but I want a job. There's nothing wrong with that. It takes a certain type of personality to be willing to be an entrepreneur because it is, in a lot of ways, more risky right? And it's just more risky in a lot of ways. Like you're taking on all of the risk of the company. And so you have to be a certain personality type who would prefer the risk of being 100% responsible for what's going to happen in your life. Uh, and that's not for everyone. So finding those other weirdos in your tribe who are like, yeah, I love this life and I don't want to do anything else. I think that that's really crucial. And then also, I have incredibly strong boundaries around my work. When I first started out, I think like a lot of people, I worked around the clock and I really had to shift that to understand that you can't build a business from a place of scarcity and lack, which is what I was doing, right? I was undercharging and I was working all the time. And any client that came to me, I felt like I had to take them because I needed money so bad. If you do that, you will again end up setting up a business where you hate working there. And so I had to reverse engineer my business from what do I want my life to be like? What do I want my days to be like? What days of the week do I want to take off? What time do I want to start? What time do I want to end? And build my business that way. So I don't work on Fridays. I don't work on Sundays. I work usually between like the hours of 11 and around 6 p.m. And those are the times that I'm available. And when I'm not at work, I'm not at work and I don't have notifications on my phone. I exercise, I go to the beach, I'm with my friends. Like I really create space and separation to take care of myself outside of this. As an entrepreneur, it's so tempting to work around the clock because there's always something you could be doing. But like I always tell people, and I tell myself this, your business is not a to-do list you need to get done. It's like a garden that you tend. Right? Like if you have a garden, you're not out working in it all day, every day. You go out once a day, you water it, you check on everything, you trim the weeds, you like talk to your plants, and then you go back inside and you go about your life and you trust that it's going to grow. So your business needs that same energy. Yes, be with it most days, but you don't have to work around the clock and like smother it.
No, I think boundaries are really important. I see an interview with an artist the other day, and they said they did some work with Eminem, the rapper, and they said he told them that his work hours were 9 till 5. They turned up at 4:30, and he still walked out the studio at 5 o'clock because he said that's my work hours. And you see how very successful he is as a rap artist. So to have those morals and them boundaries, I think that's a very clear um, thing that people need to establish.
And I think that, right, that boundaries are so important in so many ways. And again, thinking of this like any other relationship, if you go into a relationship with no boundaries and you're just completely overgiving and you're giving this other person whatever they want and you're always available for them and you do anything that they need you to do and you don't get any reciprocity and you're just hoping that one day they're going to realize how great you are and start like giving back to you and taking less, it's probably never going to happen because you established the relationship that you're the giver and they're the taker and that's just how it is. Same thing with your business, like, you wanna set it up in such a way that this is how you want it to continue, and I also think it's so common and this is built into our structure, right? This is, like, part of how we relate to labor, like, you're gonna work your butt off for a company and you retire at 65 and then you get to rest. You get a couple you work your butt off all the time, you get 1 or 2 vacation weeks a year, you have to ask for sick time, all that stuff. So this idea that we're gonna put in a bunch of work first and relax later kind of seeps into our consciousness, and then you end up building a business where you're stressed out, you're depleted, you're burnt out, you're working around the clock. Even if you are making money, you don't really get to enjoy it because you do nothing but work. To me, that's not the goal of entrepreneurship. The goal of entrepreneurship is that I have time freedom and that I get to live my life the way that I want to live it. And that starts with just the day to day. So setting yourself up in an idea that like you're going to work around the clock now and then you're going to get more space later, it almost never works. And what ends up happening a lot of time, because I end up working with these people as my clients, is you hit a point where you literally feel trapped by the business you've built and you are so lost because you've been doing nothing but working for so long and you can't figure out what brings you joy anymore, right? You're verging on like actual burnout and you want to just shut the whole thing down. And right? And so walking yourself back from that and having to reconnect to like, what actually makes me happy and is it even safe for me to start working less? You don't want to wait until you get to that point to start making that a priority.
For you, what is success?
Mm. I think for me, success is being happy. And this is something that, taking it back to where we started, like on the floor of that bathroom at that corporate job crying, I really had that realization that all that I wanted was to be happy every day. And I've been saying this about this business for years. My goal, my only goal is to be happy. Like, yeah, there's financial goals that I have for my personal life, but like my only goal is to be happy. And I'm happy running this business. And the day I wake up and I'm like, I'm not happy doing this anymore, I will close this business and I will not care. I'll go do something else. There are plenty of things in the world I'm interested in. Um, and so for me, happiness is like I wake up every day and I like the day that I'm about to have. I never, I remember having days where I was dreading going to work, where I was up late the night before, dreading that I had to go in, where I was like, on my way to work with a knot in my stomach, like, I hate that I have to be here, where I was counting down the clock to get out of there. And to me, like, that is not a life that I want to live. So success to me looks like I wake up every day and I'm excited for the things that are on my schedule and the stuff that I get to do. And as long as I'm closing out every day feeling like, man, that was a fun day, then I'm living a successful life. And like that's what that means for me.
Brilliant. And if people want your help or support, where can they find you?
Yeah, intuitiveedgecoaching.com. You can find everything there. I have a YouTube channel also. It's just Intuitive Edge Coaching. I have an Instagram, but I'm not active on it right now. I'm taking the year off of Instagram, which has been really fun, but there is a lot of content there and it's also Intuitive Edge Coaching. So I'm around and like I said, I have a membership for people who are just starting out. I take private clients. I work with people one-on-one. There are a lot of different ways that I am happy to work with people. So you can find me. I'm very accessible.
And what we'll do, we'll put the links in the description below so people can get to you quicker.
Yeah.
Before we end this conversation, and it's been a fascinating conversation, I've got one last question, and this question I ask every guest. If you could be remembered for one word and one word only, what would it be and why?
Ooh, this is a funny one, but I'm gonna go with permission.
Oh, no, okay.
Um, no one needs anyone else's permission, but I think something that I get reflected back to me a lot is that in working with me, people feel like they have permission to be more of themselves, to trust themselves more, and to do more of what they want, to really feel like, hey, it's okay for me to do things my way and everything's going to be all right. I'm not going to get in trouble or let anyone down or destroy anything if I do things the way that I want to do them. And so I think if the way that I am me in the world and the way that I work with people helps people feel like they suddenly have permission for the first time in their life to like be who they are in the world and pursue what they want to pursue, then that to me is like a really valuable and lasting impact.
Well, so it's been a great pleasure speaking to you, and thank you so much for your time. And please, anytime you want to come back on, please join us again.
Thank you for having me.